It's finally time for that promised custom card stream. Very quick disclaimer. This was supposed to happen a month ago. I started a contest for people of the Snnuy Discord to submit their takes on the Darkin weapons for the regions that didn't have a Darkin weapon yet. Back then, we had one for Noxus, we had one for Targon, we had one for Shurima, and we had one for Shadow Isles. Nothing else had Darkin weapons yet. So I figured, let's do this contest. When I come back from my vacation in Italy, I'll have a stream, I'll talk about these cards. But then I came back with COVID. I couldn't stream for another week. And then right when I felt better, the new card reveals were happening. I didn't want to do custom cards when there are new cards revealing, because that's kind of scuffed. Then you have like fake cards mixed with new cards that you don't know what's real anymore. So we're finally here. That does mean that we now got a Darkin weapon for Piltover, Demacia, Piltover. The harp. So we have 3 Darkin weapons in the game, but people still made custom cards for them. So we're still gonna talk about them and pretend that Ibarose, Stiratu, and Jaral are not real. That's the plan. Let's get these custom cards going. The Snnuy Discord has submitted a bunch of cards, and they were all 1 Darkin equipment and 1 Darkin unit attached to it. We're gonna start with Bilgewater, and this right here is the first one, and it's immediately a complete banger. This is one of the best submissions in the entire set. This is the Darkin Artillery, a 2-mana 0/0 weapon. Attack if unblocked, play cannon barrage targeting my blocker. Otherwise, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. So it's literally just like a mini Riptide Rex. You put this on a unit, and if they're blocked, they shoot them with a cannon, and if they don't block it, they deal 1 to the enemy nexus. You have the synergy with a bunch of skill units, which Piltover has been getting a lot of. Like we've seen Crackshot Corsair, we've seen the new Buru Cultist and stuff. So Annie Pirates exactly might like a card like this. Like this card on Annie is just hilarious, right? Piltover can really benefit from equipment like this. I'm not sure if the weapon itself is better than the Harpoon though. I think the Harpoon might be better, but Jin, exactly, Jin loves this card. If you decide, hey, I'm in the late game with my aggro deck, which this is probably played in, and I want a big fat Darkin, you can play the Darkin Artillery as Bark, an 8-mana 6/7, fearsome. When I'm summoned, draw Darkin and reduce its cost by 2. So that's a 2-mana Varus. That's a 3-mana Kane. Attack for each attacking ally. Play Cannon Barrage 2 times on randomly targeted enemies. I am kind of lost right now on what the max stack is on for the spells, on the spell stack. But if you attack with 6 units, that's 12. If you attack with a full board, you play 12 Cannon Barrages. Yeah, I think it's 9 too. So to get max value, you have to attack with 5 units, and you just fill the stack immediately with Cannon Barrages. It's like a super Riptide Rex, but you have to go kind of wide. So that also says a lot about what kind of deck you want to play the Darkin Artillery in, right? If you want to play the Darkin Artillery, it probably needs to go on like cheap units that either have quick attack or that have elusive, because it's +0/+0. Yes, if the unit gets blocked, they will get hit by a Cannon Barrage. You're a little more likely to win that trade, but either way, you need good units to put that Darkin Artillery on. And you know, decks that curve really low also tend to go really wide. So I could see a deck with Morai Warden, maybe even with Petty Officer, and then late game you play Bark, you have 5 units on the board, you attack with everything, and you just go to town. You just completely one-shot your opponent with Riptide Rex. Another thing, like I know this is really good with something like Annie, right? Jin, because of skills, but what if we still had a playable Raven Bloom Conservatory? That's also so great. I like that the equipment synergized with challenging units, aka vulnerable, which builds what I have plenty of. Also, like, super good point. See, Yuri, this is why I'm so happy that you're here. Exactly. It's right there. You have cards like Hired Gun. It's so obvious. You play Hired Gun, you make that stupid Teemo vulnerable, and then you play Darkin Artillery on your Hired Gun, and you challenge that Teemo, and you just bop it. It's so freaking good. Also, kind of synergized with Overwhelm units, so maybe this is like good for a Bilgewater Shurima deck even. Next card. This is the final Darkin for Bilgewater. And we're gonna try to make Ibarose jealous once again. Here we go. This is the Darkin Cutlass. 2 mana, +1/+0. It also has fearsome. When I'm equipped, if my bearer is a 1-cost unit, grab me +1/+1. And you may spend 6 mana to play me as more. Synergy for the 1-drop archetype. I really like this, especially since yesterday we played a Reaver's Row deck. And many times, I kind of wish that I had the Darkin Cutlass. It's also funny that Reaver's Row gives everything +2, +1, and fearsome. So it's like, it's directly from that, right? It's a piece for a deck like that. And I really love it when custom card makers make cards like this that already go into archetypes that are underrepresented, could use some love. And Darkin Cutlass, I think, is balanced in what it does. It's only +2/+1 for a 1-drop. It does have fearsome. The fearsome keyword doesn't really matter much for elusive-like cards. Put it on the Boer Cultist. Yeah, that's beautiful. The Boer Cultist is actually such a great target for this. That's a 4/3 fearsome that activates its own effect. All right, let's look at the Darkin. 6 mana, 5/6. Fearsome. Attack, grant all 1-cost allies +2/+1 and overwhelm. When a 1-cost ally that isn't a Sea Reaver dies, summon a Sea Reaver. And a Sea Reaver is a 1 mana 1/2 that can't block. Attack, I strike a random enemy. Yeah, so I love this card. I love the effect, but that second part I think is a little bit unnecessary. I think it would just be enough if Mar left a 1/1. Much like the, I forgot the name, but Zolani does the same thing, right? Darkin Bloodletters leaves behind a 1/1 that can't block. I think that's enough because you're already buffing that. That would be a 3/1 with Overwhelm. And plus you have probably a Reaver's Row in a deck like this. You probably have a Darkin Cutlass. That's more than enough. You don't need this to also have a really, really broken effect where it strikes a random enemy, right? It just strikes. It just kills something, most likely. Yeah, this is crazy. Well, what excites me is that anytime I see an effect like grant all 1-cost allies +2/+0 and Overwhelm, that's like primary printing material. You want to print a card like that. You want to buff up your entire deck as much as possible. Very, very cool. I would love synergy like this for the 1-drop archetype. And that was Bilgewater. We are going to move on to Demacia. And the first card I have here is the Scepter. This is a 2 mana +1/+0 equipment. I have +1/+1 for every 6 mana of spells and equipments you've played this game. You may spend 7 mana to play me as Alduin. This is Lux support. Lux could really use a weapon. Oh my god, Alduin only has 1 A. Why is it not Alduin? Why is this on this list when this Alduin Darkin clearly did not get the memo?
Varus, V-A-R-U-S. Your name should have an A and then another A. Varus, there was a memo, Varus. There was a memo.
What is happening here? Naming aside, I think this is fantastic for Demacia. This is so cool. I really want Demacia to do more interesting things, and the only interesting thing they do that isn't just a rally with big stats is Lux, right? Lux helps with that. And this goes straight into a Lux deck. It's not like anything completely revolutionary. It's nice. It's a nice little point of extra support for that deck. But if you don't want to use this as equipment and you're more into the late game, you're running out of spells, you're running out of units, and you say, hey, I need Alduin with 1A. You get a 7 mana 5/5 with spell shield. Attack, give all attacking allies +1/+1 this round for every 6 mana of spells and equipment you've played this game. This is also very, very similar to the Darkin Scepter, except it goes to the entire board when you attack. It says give, so it's only for 1 turn. This is such cool flavor. It fits so well into that deck. You have the Jace direction, you have the Lux direction, and then you have the Alduin direction, where Jace is like, okay, bit of attack, bit of random keywords, and Alduin is just nope. For everything you've done this game, everything is gonna start adding up, and I'm going to give this entire board so many stats all over the place. Another great thing about this card is you can play 1 for Demacia. That's a 6 mana, give your board +3/+3. That also pumps up Alduin. So if you use that card to start making your board big, then later on you play Alduin and it's just extra stats. Everything just synergizes with each other. Next, this is a very, very cool Darkin as well. This is the Darkin Shield. 2 mana, +1/+1. Attack, give my bearer barrier this round. Give my barrier. Give my bearer this round. Nailed it. Shen and Fiora would love this, or just Fiora in general. This would also be such a fantastic card for a deck like Pantheon Fiora, or now Pantheon Vayne. On Vayne, this would actually be completely busted. I will say that this was made before Vayne was released, or even announced. It's super omega busted with Vayne, right? Vayne uses Tumble, starts an attack with +1/+1 and barrier. And yeah, and it's just insane on any challenger, really. Yeah, it's a super good card. I think this should be +0/+0. I agree with that. It might even need to be 3 mana. If this was 3 mana, okay. If this was 3 mana, would it be busted? I don't think it would be, because then Vayne can't abuse it. And paying 3 mana for a barrier that you only get on attack, I think 3 mana might be fair. And then the Darkin is a 8 mana 7/7 with Fury. Attack, I strike all battling enemies. I am a dragon. This is pretty good as well. It's literally Judgment on a stick. It's like you put Zikrak into combat and it's like, here, bling, Judgment. Try to block, and I'm gonna swing it and kill it. The reason why I love this card is people don't know the satisfaction of playing dragons with Judgment anymore. I played Aurelion Soul before Shyvana was even out, and that feeling you get when you attack with Aurelion Soul, or your opponent is attacking, even better, your opponent is swinging with 6, ready to get lethal, you block with your Aurelion Soul because you spend 10 mana as a tempo loss to get that Aurelion Soul on the board, and then you cue Judgment on the Aurelion Soul. Aurelion starts spinning, and you see that Fury trigger 6 times, and it's like a dragon, almost like flying into the sky, getting +1/+1 6 times. It's so beautiful. And Ziggurat does this, because Ziggurat just puts Judgment on the stack, opponent decides to block, and then the stats go galactic. And with Dragon's Clutch from Targon, you can give him Overwhelm. Even better. The idea behind this was that the dragon corrupted a dragon. Seeing Darkin corrupt a ship, corrupt a dragon, is such a cool thematic direction. And I really hope we get to see more of it during the final expansion of the Darkin saga as well. We're gonna go to the final region that did receive a Darkin plus equipment in the last expansion, and that is Piltover and Zaun. Got Steratu and the Darkin Harp, but we're going to start with the Darkin Crown. 2 mana, +1/+1. Round end, grant a random ally in your deck +2/+2. This doesn't seem like it's really anything interesting, right? But it's so cool that the creator of this card thought, hey, let's make Predict actually fun and exciting for Piltover, because all the fun Predict cards are in Shurima. There's like almost nothing for it in Piltover. Sure, you can start printing stuff with Evil Imperfectionist, which I just love to do, right? But there's not really any consistent way to get your cards, unless you're also playing Shurima, to predict those cards that you're printing, to predict those broken crystal out of your deck. With the Darkin Crown, you really want a lot of predicts, so you can buff all your units by +2/+2 at every round end. You predict, you fish those units out of your deck, and it's great. It's like the Xenotype Researchers, but round end. I love this. This is such a cool card. You don't even need to attack with this. You can just equip this and sit back. There's been a slight error in the formatting for the Darkin here. There is no region on Almakea. 8 mana, 5/6, play Predict. If you pick a unit, summon it. Otherwise, draw 1. Another fantastic effect that synergizes with the Darkin Crown. Not every card needs to do this, right? Not every card needs to synergize together. They don't all do this in the game either. You play the Darkin Crown early game, you put in like your Seraphine or something. I don't know. It's a pretty strong champion. She wants to sit back. You play Seraphine, you put the Darkin Crown on her, you wait a couple of turns, you play Almakea eventually, and you get a bunch of big units for free on the board. You're predicting. It's a really consistent way to get all your big units. And I think that's really cool. All right, that was card number 1 for Piltover. Card number 2 is the Energy Core. And this is one of my favorites. 1 mana, +1/+0. When I'm discarded, equip me to your weakest ally. It's so simple. I've been playing a lot of discard decks with Victor and Vivian. I just really like this type of effect. And I'm surprised it's not in the game already. You discard this weapon and it just automatically gets equipped. You automatically give your weakest unit +1/+0. It's simple. It's not much going on. It's a really cute effect, but it gets exciting when you look at Xerath. 7 mana, 6/5, quick attack. When I'm summoned, discard your entire hand. That is a big investment. You want to play this with Jinx, maybe? Yeah, this is great for Jinx. Finally, some Jinx support after all these years. So you level up your Jinx, your entire hand is gone, but then you look at the play. Play Darkin Discharge on randomly targeted enemies once per card you've discarded this round. If you have 8 cards in your hand, you play Xerath. Xerath get rid of your entire hand. You have nothing left. And then the Darkin Discharge triggers 8 times and you draw 8 cards. This is so freaking cool. It's not an attack effect either. It's just instantly hand empty. Play Darkin Discharge. It targets randomly selected things and then you refill your hand. And if you have a Jinx on the board, that's pretty huge. And you lose to milling yourself. Yeah, well, too bad, I guess, right? I really love this effect. You're gonna be really sad if this gets Rite of Negated. Yeah, then you're just left with no cards in your hand. But the discard part and the ability too. I mean, now it's really funny if it gets summoned from Tri-Beam. If this gets summoned from Tri-Beam, you just lose your entire hand and nothing else. Give the Ezreal players what they deserve. Actually, you can't get, it's a token, so you can't get this from Tri-Beam, but still. All right, moving on. We're now entering the regions that do not have a Darkin in the game yet. And we're going to start with Frail Yard. All right, you guys can pick number 1 or number 2. I'll leave this one up to the chat. Which one do you want to see first? All right, it's a lot of 2s. All right, number 2. Number 2 is the Darkin Tooth. And this might actually be my favorite. I think this is my favorite. Good choice, chat. 2 mana, +0/+0. When I'm equipped, deal 1 to my bearer. Then forge me. You may spend 5 mana to play me as Monira. I love this because I really want to play Ornn, and I want Ornn to have a weapon that benefits from being forged, an early game weapon. So you need to play Ornn with Jax, right? But with this weapon benefits so much from being forged. And it's also some Scarground support. I think that's also pretty cool. I don't think it matters much, but then again, you could play an Ornn Scarground deck. Maybe that's a thing. Probably not, but it is there. With this card, it is there. So it's pretty simple. This weapon is always a 1/1, and because the forge happens later, you actually can't play this on a 1 health unit, I think. What if it said forge me and then deal 1 to my bearer? When I'm equipped, forge me, then deal 1 to my bearer. Then you could play it on a 1 mana unit, right? Or a 1 health unit, rather. Okay, but the coolest part is Monira. 5 mana 2/2. When I'm summoned, grant me the Darkin Tooth's stats. So because you're using the weapon to summon Monira, it will automatically just transfer those stats, right? The Darkin Tooth is always forged at least once. So that's +1/+1. If you forge it more with a bunch of cards that can do that in Frail Yard, it could be like a 4/4 or 5/5. It already has Overwhelm. And then last breath, create the Darkin Tooth with my stats in hand. So you get the weapon back +2/+2. Because Monira is basically like forging the weapon as well. If you get it back, it's basically like it's forged. So it is kind of infinite like Zolani. I think this is my favorite because of how well they work together. This is not, here's an equipment, here's a Darkin. This is, they work together. They're one, right? Almost like Zolani. Zolani has that play pattern where you want to keep slaying the Darkin thralls with Zolani so you can summon her. And that works really well together. And it's the same with Monira. So here we go. Next card is the Darkin Talisman. It's a 2 mana +2/+2. I am an 8+ cost card for beholding, even while I'm equipped. So finally, the trolls get some support to have their abilities activated early. I think it's about time, really. It's kind of weird that we never had anything that really worked with the trolls, even though it's been in the game for 2 years. It's always been so weird. You have 2 2-cost and you have a 4-cost that need to see an 8+ unit. And then you have Trundle at 5 that creates a pillar. Your abilities need to be active earlier. So with the Darkin Talisman, it would actually be really cool to have that effect active all the time. 2 mana +2/+2 is way too much though. Way too much. The Darkin is an 8 mana 8/7 with regeneration. Round start, frostbite enemies for each 8+ card you behold. So if you have a lot of big chunky units, you're going to be frostbiting the entire board the entire time. This card is the same thing, right? Frostbiting isn't necessarily something that an 8+ cost card deck does. They don't really care about that, but it's always strong. It's never weak. And it is an 8 mana 8/7. Frail Yard cannot stop something like a Vengeance, so it is easily dealt with. There is a lot of counterplay, but sometimes this is what the Darkin units do best, right? You're in the late game and you're like, hey, I just need a big unit, and then Aramis is there for you. This is literally Unforgiving Cold, right? Literally Unforgiving Cold before we even knew what Unforgiving Cold was. Aramis Biggest Pigus ramp, dude. I miss Biggest Pigus, but what a god Biggest Pigus would be in a deck like this. Biggest Pigus plus Aramis is the ultimate win con. That's 2 8+ cost cards. That's 2 frostbites, and that means that Biggest Pigus will let you attack and they can't block. That's beautiful. That's such beautiful synergy. I love it. The Frail Yard cards have been slam dunks. That means that next expansion, when we do actually get the Frail Yard weapon, we can only get disappointed, right? Man, I really want it to be good because let's just get a weapon that Ornn wants to forge. Give me a 1 or 2 mana weapon that Ornn is happy to put all his work into. Let's pray for it together. And then we have 2 regions left. Ionia. Both Darkin weapons are a staff. They're both called the Darkin Staff. So we'll start with the first one. The Darkin Staff. 3 mana +0/+3. Strike, draw a spell. You may spend 9 mana to play me as Tonastra. This is River Shaper as an equipment. I'm not really sure about giving a lot of health from equipment. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's really easy to make that degenerate. Having more attack than health, I think is a healthy direction to take for equipment. That's kind of how it's been in the game so far. But this is a really, really simple effect, right? This should be like +0/+2 if you really want it to be. I think that'd be fine. It's such a powerful effect. It's like an engine type of thing. So attacking a lot, drawing a lot of spells is what you want, and health makes sense. If you play this as a Darkin, you get Tonastra with quick attack, 9 mana, 8/8. Attack, play the highest cost spell in your hand. It targets the strongest enemy. If it can't, target me instead. Yeah, this is quite strong. Ionia does not have great ways to abuse this as far far as I know. However, if you play this with something like, you know, Disguise Descent, I think that's really all it takes. Disguise Descent. Yeah, free on Yielding Spirit. There's a lot of ways to do it, but it is a 9 mana. Lee Sin Kick. Lee Sin Kick is actually hilarious as well. You can Lee Sin Kick immediately with Tenasra for 8 damage at burst speed and remove a blocker. It's a game winner. You will win the game almost immediately with this card, but I still wanted to showcase it because it's a really, really funny effect. I personally think it should be on the stack, right? It should probably be something that's on the stack so your opponent can play around it. It's a game loser if the opponent has no board. AoE, like Disguise Descent, can't target your own board anyway because that's in the text. It's not like it suddenly hits your board. It will Vengeance. So yeah, if Vengeance is your strongest or your highest cost spell, it will target Tenasra and kill it immediately. I think that's actually hilarious. Just imagine putting Tenasra on the stack, ready to attack, put it in combat, you click commit, and immediately it just dies and nothing happens. the combat phase is over. All right, we're going to Darkin Staff number 2, and you guys tell me which one is better. So this one is 3 mana as well, +2/+1. When I'm equipped, summon a Shadow Fiend and grow its stats to match my bearer. So if you equip this on a 1/1, it will be a 3/2, and you will get a 3/2 Shadow Fiend. So this is just, you want to use this on a unit that's very strong. This also works quite well with Elusive, obviously. And the second part, Nyani the Quiet, 6 mana, 3/5, Elusive. There it is, of course, Ionia has to be Elusive. It's the cringe region, so Elusive has to be part of it. Attack, summon an attacking Shadow Fiend and grow its stats to match the strongest allies. It's just stats, not keywords, so it will just be big units every time you're attacking. So a 6 mana 3/5 Elusive is honestly not the worst. With an upside, I really don't think this is bad at all. If this card existed, even without the Darkin Staff part, it would probably be a card that a lot of Ionia decks want to run. I think this is really, really powerful. Now, Ionia is generally not known for having a lot of strong allies. Their stats are not what's impressive about them. What's impressive about Ionia is their ability to deny, to recall, to stun, and to go elusive. While the effect is very powerful, you really need to combine it with a different region to get the full effect. So, for example, maybe there is another Ionia Demacia deck with rallies that wants to play a little slower. Maybe you want to play this with Vayne. If you play this with Vayne, it's really good. It's like Super Z. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to abuse this, and I would not be surprised if this was in the game, it would see a lot of main deck play. Oh, this with Spawn is also hilarious. We did see a lot of Ilawi Ionia, right? When she was released. That was pretty strong. So just copying the stats of your big tentacle. And now we go to Bandle City. We're gonna start with a card made by the one and only Yuri. And this is comparable to the Darkin Energy Core. 3 mana +1/+0. The Darkin Bloom. When I'm discarded, equip me to your weakest unequipped ally and grant me impact. This is comparable to discarding it and equipping it to the weakest ally, but Yuri has some additional text where it also grants it impact. I think it's cool. I love this type of effect. It's a 3 mana weapon, so you never really want to play this normally. You really need to discard this. Now, there is one thing to say about Bandle City getting good cards that want to be targeted by discard. Because if you play this with Rumble, it will be really powerful. Rumble got that landmark, and that's such, like, that landmark is so specific. That only works with Mecha Yordles, and it almost kind of sucks having to main deck it. I think this will be very powerful. It doesn't really matter how good the Darkin Bloom is, because discarding is just such a powerful effect that Bandle City really, really wants. And the interesting part is, of course, the Darkin. This is an 8 mana 4/3 Sarava, AA, did get the memo, quick attack, play, create an exact copy of the strongest unit you have discarded this game in hand. If you've dealt damage to the enemy nexus 4+ times, summon it instead. And that is a play effect. This happens once. If you've dealt damage to the nexus 4+ times, which, let's be honest, is going to be pretty easy when you have impact, you're going to summon your Furious Faithful. Your Furious Faithful is going to get summoned. It's going to be 5/4 with impact 4 times, and you're going to win the game. It's going to summon your Scion. Man, I am just imagining the Rumble Mecha Yordle decks. How I would love to play this card. Oh my god. Just think about it, right? For 1 second, like, Rumble is so powerful on turn 4. It has 5 attack, it has Spell Shield, and it has quick attack. 9 out of 10 times, when you're attacking with Rumble, you're gonna get damage through. Now, let's say that Rumble discards the Darkin Bloom, it discards Scion, and it discards Scion again. Whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Maybe another Darkin Bloom. It really doesn't matter. The game goes on. Surely, because you're playing Mecha Yordles, you've damaged the Nexus 4 times, and then turn 8 rolls around, you play Sarava, Scion gets summoned, your Rumble's probably leveled, and you're ready to win a game. This is so freaking beautiful. Wait, Adakan? Oh yeah. Dude, I love it. If you want to make this card a little bit spicier, you should just say, like, if you've dealt damage to the enemy Nexus 4+ time, summon it and it starts a free attack. Now we're talking with Adakan and Scion. The very final card of this series, it's the 12th Darkin / equipment, is the Darkin Hammer. And this one is pretty straightforward. straightforward. It's a 2 mana +1/+1 attack, grant me impact. Impact stacking. I personally think impact stacking is really, really fun. It's something that Tristana does, but who's Tristana? Has anyone seen Tristana? Because I haven't. I don't think I've seen a Tristana deck for literally months. This is a way to do impact stacking with something that isn't a champion that sees absolutely no play. That isn't done by a deck that doesn't want to play a champion or take up a champion slot for something like that. So you're attacking. Honestly, Yordles are surprisingly good at attacking in the early game. A lot of them have elusive or quick attack. They have a lot of ways to like enable their swarm and stuff in the early game. So Darkin Hammer could definitely get multiple attacks in. I think this could easily stack up a bunch of times. And since it's grant me impact, you can play the Darkin Hammer on the next unit and it will keep going. It will keep stacking that impact. I think it's cool. I love impact stacking. For 6 mana, you can also choose to play this as a Darkin Cutlass. 2/5, when I'm summoned, grant me impact for each time you've damaged the enemy nexus this game. It's very straightforward. There is not much text here, but if you've been playing a little bit aggressive, if you've been playing your early game Yordle units with impact, this will have like 10 impact easily. And since that means you've damaged the nexus 10 times, it's a one-shot. Yeah, this can get crazy for sure. That's the beautiful part of it, right? When Battle City hits your nexus, it's going to be for 1 damage. It's going to be for 2 damage. It's not even going to be for 3 damage very often. It's going to be like 2 damage at most. So Shakal will stack up that impact really fast. It synergizes from both those directions, right? Small hits and then 1 really, really big impact hit from Shakal. Shrooms Rejoice, yeah, with Teemo. Dude, this card is insane with Teemo. Teemo's good at stacking the Darkin Hammer. It's good at stacking up Shakal. Super good. I would love to play this in a Teemo Kaelin deck. All right, chat. That was it. If you have a favorite, do let me know which one it is. My favorite is this one. This is my favorite. I just want to give this one a quick shout out at the end here because this is easily the coolest design in my opinion. And that's not because I love Ornn so much and I really want to see Ornn played. I just think it's super cool how well the equipment and the Darkin play together.